Cool. So Jamin and I have been working on something for the last 2 months that we think will hopefully blow your socks off and make people more productive at PayPal. And we don't have a whole lot of time, so we'll be a little bit quick. So here are a couple of things that every single application at PayPal needs. Not only application, but also like module too, if you're going to publish something to NPM. So you're going to need a development server. You're going to need an optimized Webpack build, not just like a bare minimum Webpack builds, but like something that's optimized for your users, so they're not like suffering like the cost of your under optimized Webpack build. And then you want to have integration and unit and end-to-end tests for the client and server side of your app, and then linting and like hopefully automatic code formatting too, so you don't have to worry about nitpicking over code format. And then static typing, like if you're not using static typing right now, you probably have bugs in production. I'm just gonna say that. And then on top of all that, you also need to ship stuff to production, so that pressure leads to suboptimally configured tools that fall out of date really quickly, and everybody's less productive, and we ship bugs to production. So not good stuff. But every single application needs to do this. And so that's like a huge amount of duplication of effort. So we just did a search on GitHub Enterprise. We have 635 Webpack configs. And if anybody's like here has configured Webpack before, they know that represents countless hours of work. And then we have 897 Babel RCs. So configuring Babel is a really difficult task also. And then ESLint, 5,657 ESLint configurations throughout all of PayPal. That just like blows my mind and it freaks me out. So if we talk about this in terms of money and time that PayPal is spending, Jamie and I did like some back of the napkin math and came up with $750,000 a year spent on configuring tools. And what we get for that giant investment of money is often suboptimally configured tools that suffer productivity loss and bugs in production. So yeah, not super duper awesome. And then this can't be overstated. The amount of support requests that Jamin and I and others get on Slack for like, what does this tool even do? Like, what is Webpack for? And like really, really basic fundamental stuff. It's astronomical. Like we get at least a dozen a week of like, how do I configure this tool? And so all of that pulls experienced engineers away from the valuable work they're doing to help configure the tools for all these other projects. So that cost is probably way more. And then like the opportunity costs of everybody who's working on configuring these tools just to get them to work when they could be shipping stuff to customers sooner. And so we like, how do you measure that? I don't know, but it's going to be a silly amount of money. So these are lots of the tools that we're using at PayPal to do our job. And each one of these requires some amount of configuration and is taking some valuable time. So wouldn't it be really awesome if we could consolidate all these tools into one tool that has all things configured for us for the use cases of PayPal, and then people could just install that one tool and start writing their code and shipping. And that is what PayPal Scripts is. So the game plan with PayPal Scripts.
Just real quick.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm not talking on VMR, so I'm probably missing half the people. So if you could just repeat everything I'm saying.
Yeah,
basically,
so Jamin is talking.
The community already solved this problem, right? Well, the React community already solved this problem. There's already tools in the React community that, because so many people are complaining, hey, the setup's too complicated, the setup's too complicated. But there's absolutely nothing like this at PayPal. And that's that, could you talk a little bit about the Create React app and how that changed the way people develop React apps in the community?
Yeah. So people on VMR, I guess, can't hear Jamin, but basically what he's saying is this is not a problem that's unique to PayPal. It's a problem that is like that everybody in the entire JavaScript ecosystem experiences. Like these tools are not just PayPal tools, certainly. They're all open source tools. And so the React community has come together to create a project called React Scripts. And PayPal Scripts is kind of based on that idea. And it's been like insanely useful to the React community. It's like changed the game.
Is it based off React script? or is this all brand new from
This
scratch?
is so it's
Similar to React.
it's ground up project.
Oh, wow.
Like there's nothing in this project that's React scripts. So
Wow.
yeah, it's been a pretty big effort for the last 2 months, but it's super duper cool. So yeah, so the game plan is to ultimately migrate all of the consumer web, Node, and browser modules to use PayPal scripts. Hopefully we can get Node Infra in on this too, to migrate all the consumer web applications to PayPal scripts, and then migrate the sample app to PayPal scripts. So all of PayPal can benefit from this. And the nice thing here
real
is,
quick. So
yeah.
So yeah, we've worked with Node Infra the whole time, and basically they're helping us get this stuff ready for production. And another thing is they're pretty eager. They basically never were able to support all the client-side apps, because about, the sample app is from about four years now. It's changed only in minor ways, and it never really supported modern JavaScript apps. And so, when React came out, when the JavaScript community really embraced these new tools, our basic tools never supported them out of the box. So every team had to continue to reinvent the wheel and reinvent the wheel and reinvent the wheel over and over again. And while the community, the wider community had good solutions for these things, we never embraced those here. And so finally we're taking best-in-class solutions and making them in a PayPal specific way that the whole company can benefit from. So I just don't want to understate how useful this is going to be, not for our teams alone, because we have all the experts. We actually know how to configure this stuff and get it up and running. But for the whole PayPal community, which is just like struggling to use these tools in a sensible way. And unfortunately, Node Infra has no resources to support this. So no team, there's no infrastructure team that's been able to do this until we got the wizard Kent here, who's like sick of answering support requests 100 times a day for how to set up Webpack and React, was like, let's solve this for everyone forever.
Yeah. And on top of all this too, is like configuring Webpack, configuring Babel, ESLint, whatever. That's all like you do it once and you're done, right? Well, that's not really the way that it works, because these tools are constantly getting improved and you want to keep them updated. And so every single time any one of these tools is updated, you have to pay another cost to read the change log, figure out what's changed, and change your configuration. And we can kind of like suck that all up into PayPal scripts, and now everybody in the company who's using PayPal scripts can just bump their version of PayPal scripts, and probably like most likely they won't have to change any of their code to get that benefit. So yeah, that's the game plan. We've got a bunch of repos that are like, so here we have the PayPal scripts repo, and then we have some sample repos. So there are 3 use cases for PayPal scripts, for applications, for node modules, and browser modules. And so for these 2 modules, they're like things that you publish to NPM, whether it be like use cases for Node or the browser or both. So I have a demo video that I sent out to everybody, and you can like, if the my screen sharing isn't working while we watch this video, then you can just look at the video later. But we're gonna go look at that right now, and it's like not too long. So hopefully, hopefully you love it.
It's just like 12 minutes.
Yeah.
Because Kent's really good at making videos.
Okay. So this is the new sample app, and it's using PayPal scripts to do its job. So let's take a look at what a sample app with PayPal scripts looks like. So here we've got a package.json, and this one is responsible for all of the tooling for the project. So here we've got our dev dependencies on PayPal scripts, and then a whole bunch of scripts that are referencing that. And we'll take a look at those in a little bit. And then we have a client and a server directory, and each one of these has their own package.json that's responsible for that side of the stack's dependencies. And so here in the client, we have a package.json, and we've got some front-end dependencies, and we even have some developer dependencies, dev dependencies for developer tools and for testing purposes and things like that. And it's all just concerned with the client side of things. And then we have the server side, and this has a package.json that has its dependencies and anything else that it needs to do its job on the server. So let's take a look at some of these scripts. If we look at the package.json, we're going to have a dev script. So let's do that one first. npm run dev. And this is going to start the dev server for both the client and the server. So it starts
Can
a
you be
client server.
closer?
This is starting Webpack Dev server on that port. And the node server is going to be responsible for proxying any requests to get client-side assets to Webpack Dev server. So this is only development time. In production, we're using the .build directory, which will be put up on the CDN. So if we go to localhost 8000 / the URI for this app is called Pay with Friends. And here is our app. Sweet. It says I'm not logged in. We can log in. We've got some stuff. This is actually all localized content. So we have like I think we've got an Italian version or something of this content as well.
They use
So we
Glamorous,
can log
I heard about
in.
it.
And this is going to take us through the normal login flow. Cool, we're logged in. So here's some handy things for you. That's pretty cool. So that's the dev server. It's client and server. And as part of this dev server and dev script, if I make changes on the server side, so I'll go to the source directory here, and in my start, I'll like add a console log here. I'm going to have the server actually restart automatically. So I don't have to like close everything down and restart it. And it's also just the server for the node side. The Webpack server doesn't need to restart or anything. So now if I
really like
refresh
this
here,
feature.
well,
I
we've
did-
got
I was skeptical of
it's
it,
going
but
to be
since I've
in
been
here
working with it
somewhere
for a
where
few
it's
days, it's
booting
really nice.
stuff up like here. Yeah, there it is, right in front of my face. So yeah, that's and then we have the exact same experience on the client. If I were to make a change here, we'll go to the index and say, hi there. And then I save this. This is going to rebuild the client side just using the regular Webpack Dev server. And we get, hi there. Neat. So that's the dev server. Now let's go ahead and take a look at linting. Linting is pretty normal, what you'd expect. If we run npm run lint, it's going to run ESLint, and you'll notice that I don't have any configuration for linting at all in my app. So I'm going to get a warning for that console statement, and that's whatever. So we have like built-in linting support. And then there's also test, and you'll notice there's no configuration anywhere for tests. It's all set up for me. So I run npm t or run test, and that's going to start up PayPal scripts test, which is going to start Jest in watch mode. So in when you're local, not like when it's not on CI, if you're locally, it's going to automatically run tests in watch mode, and you can disable that pretty easily. So the Jest watch mode is super awesome, definitely something to learn about, but I'm going to press A to run all the tests, and it's running both client and server tests in a single process, which is really, really cool. And I can hit W to show more stuff. I can click on O to only run tests related to change files. I haven't changed any files, so here's a cool feature from Jest. If I go to the header file, this file is under tests, and I make a change here. We'll do hi, and then save that. Then it automatically knows to run the test for the header file, which is pretty cool. On top of that, we're using snapshots, and so we get this really awesome experience for developing this, and I can press U to update my snapshots and all kinds of things. So if you're not familiar with Jest, definitely give it a look. It's a fantastic test runner. Cool, so I just hit Q to quit that, and if
it's really fast.
Sorry about that, Jamin. Yeah, the tests are awesome. Learn about Jest. I want to run with coverage. I can run npm run test coverage, and that will run it not in watch mode and collect all the coverage for both my client and server code, all in one report. Then I can open, if I open coverage, lcov report index.html, then I can see I'm not doing so well on my coverage, but it's something that I can improve on and track, and so it's pretty neat. Cool, so then we have Flow. So if you're not familiar with Flow, this is one of the reasons why PayPal Scripts is so nice, is because it sets all this stuff up for you and you don't have to do any of it. So definitely want to learn about Flow. It is a static type checker, and all you have to do to enable Flow is add this Flow config and this Flow script, and then you've got Flow. So now we can run npm run Flow, and it's going to statically type check all of our JavaScript. Now, not exactly all of our JavaScript. We kind of have to opt into things. So if I go to home header, I have to add this comment at the top of any file I want to have statically type checked. And then I can add these types to all of my functions and things. So I say, hey, this header expects an object, and that object should have a name property, and that name property is a string. So that's Flow. You can just start using it right out of the box. Just add a Flow config and add Flow to the top of any of your files, and you're off to the races, which is pretty awesome. And then I'll skip over, well, the validate script is actually run. It runs the build, linting, the tests, and Flow all in parallel, which is pretty neat. And then the pre-commit is actually a script that's run before you commit. So before you commit, you run PayPal scripts pre-commit. And so if I were to say git commit all my stuff with changes, and then here I enter that, it's going to run that pre-commit. So this happens kind of fast. What I wanted to point out is that it checks all the files that I have staged for this commit, and it runs all of the relevant scripts on each of those files. So it automatically formats that file for me. It automatically lints the file. It runs all the related tests to that file that changed. So if I change the header.js, it'll find all the tests that will be impacted by that change, and it'll run those relevant tests. And then it will add all of the updates to the formatting. It also even adds a table of contents to your README. So as you're making updates to your README, that table of contents gets updated, which is pretty handy.
This stuff is super annoying to set up, and the fact that literally all he has to do is add pre-commit in his package.json and add PayPal scripts. Like, it's so simple compared to most teams would never bother because it's such a wait, so much time. And with this, it's just like 2 seconds and it's enabled by default.
Yep, exactly. Scripts. So it'll run a task for the README to give it a table of contents. It'll format all of my stuff automatically using Prettier. It runs the tests for only the related files. It runs the linting for all the files that I'm changing. And then it runs Flow and the build. One other thing I want to point out is as our applications grow really big, eventually you're going to have hundreds or thousands of tests. And so your pre-commit hook could take forever waiting for all of these tests to run. And so often you'll end up doing --no-verify so that you skip the git hook. And so that's annoying. So the fact that we only run the linting and the tests on the files that are actually being committed means that we don't sacrifice the benefit of running these tests before we commit, but we also get the benefit of only running it on the relevant files that we're changing for both the server and the client. And all this stuff is totally without any configuration. Okay, so next we're going to look at the Storybook script. So if I run npm run Storybook, then I'm going to get a little app that loads up all of these story files in the app. And these story files have this little API it's using from Storybook React to create these things called stories. And so it's like little examples of my components that I can play around in isolation, within isolation. So if we go to localhost port 9000, as it said, then this is going to pop open Storybook. And one thing that it comes with out of the box is this accessibility plugin, which is pretty awesome. We can see how the colors are inaccessible, or if you have a form in here, whether that's accessible. There are a whole bunch of other plugins that you can put in here which are really, really great. And so this provides a really awesome playground for developing components in isolation, and then you can bring that into the app. And so the workflow is just so much better. Now there's also a sample
just from your components.
So it creates that automatically based off of, so like you'll build the component like you would normally, but then you'll create a __ stories _ directory, and any files that you put in that directory will automatically get loaded into Storybook. And then you have to register your components with Storybook, and you say, okay, so here's this component with these props, I'm going to call that X, and then you can open up that in Storybook and play around with that.
Okay, so there's some work to do to bring your components in. It's not totally magic, but once you have them in there, you get all the benefits of the easy development.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah, and it's still no configuration really. It's just using the Storybook API, so it's super nice. Browser module and a sample node module, and these benefit from all of the same kinds of things. The browser module also has a Storybook, and it also has the Storybook build thing, which is pretty awesome. It allows us in our browser modules to use GitHub Pages to automatically host the Storybook like on. So this is actually like a huge point. So we have a lot of browser modules that are available, but we don't know what they look like or how you use them or anything. Like, you have the documentation, but you can't interact with it. And so having this built into PayPal scripts allows anybody who's making a browser module to create a demo site that they just host on GitHub Pages, and it all just happens magically on the web, so we can actually interact with the components that other people are building, which is pretty cool. And that all happens automatically as well. So on commit, this docs folder will get generated without you having to do anything. You make a commit and it's going to generate that docs folder, and then GitHub will automatically host that little app for you. And then for the node module, it also benefits from lots of the same things. It's going to automatically transpile your stuff. It supports Flow. And if you are using Flow, then it's also going to generate for you some flow type definitions for both the browser module and the node module. So really quick, I'm just going to change directory to the sample node module, and then I'll list the files in the dist directory. You're going to see the flow files in here. And so when people are using this node module in their own apps, if they're using Flow as well, which hopefully they will be, they'll benefit from the type definitions that you created in your module. So we're going to break each other less, which is good. And then if we go to the sample browser module and then list the dist here, we're going to see distributables for CommonJS, ESM, UMD, so anybody who's still using Require.js. And so then people can use these in the browser without needing any kind of build. And then we also have flow type definitions for these as well. So there's a lot more to PayPal scripts that I didn't get a chance to talk about, but one thing that I think is important to mention is if you really want to use your own configuration, for example, if you have like a Webpack config that you've just like really fine-tuned, then all you need to do is create this webpackconfig.js and like put your Webpack config in it, and PayPal scripts will automatically use that one instead. The same thing applies for a Babel RC. Also, if you're making your own custom ESLint RC, and all, like pretty much anything that any of these tools that we're using under the hood, if you start configuring them yourself, then we'll just use yours instead. And one of the nice things about this is you can get the base config from PayPal scripts /webpack. And then you can just extend the Webpack config that's built in and module exports your config that you want. So like object assign, whatever. And overrides right here. So extending the built-in config is also pretty straightforward. Finally, one other thing, you can run node modules bin PayPal scripts build -- help, and that will give you some help output and information about how the script works and what customizations you can make on it, as well as so the help from the underlying tool if it forwards any of the arguments that you pass. So PayPal scripts comes with super awesome defaults and a really easy way to extend it and make it fit for your own use case. And that's it. So I know that we are really short on time. We're already over. But yeah, just a couple of things. What's next? So Node and browser modules are totally ready. You can use those now. We're making pull requests. apps need a little bit more work. We're working on getting things deployed. We're like super close to having a sample app with PayPal scripts deployed. So we'd love testers on that. And Jamin is actually currently working on migrating P2P Node Web to PayPal scripts, and he's got a demo for that. If we have a second at the end.
A working demo. We won't have time for it today, but it does totally work.
Yeah, it's cool. Very cool.
Can you talk more about that? Like, what's the story for apps that already exist that want to start using PayPal scripts? Is there any reason why that might be hard?
Yeah, you got to move stuff. The directory structure is different because what it does is it separates out the client and server directories in a way so your dependencies are totally separated. Because right now, there's a lot of issues with that. So it keeps them separate, but that means you have to move the folder structure around a tiny bit. I spent about a day and I got P2P Node Web working. So it's not actually terrible. We're totally out of time in the room, though. They're probably about to get kicked out. So I'll talk to you a bit more about it.
We are fine. There's no room here.
Okay.
Cool. Good. So one other thing, just like the very last thing, we're also going to create two CLIs that you can use called Create PayPal Module and Create PayPal App, where it'll just you run this little script, it'll ask you a couple of questions, and it'll generate a new project for you. So instead of having to go through the sample app, like git clone this thing and then do all this other stuff and whatever, you can just run this script and it'll automatically set up the project for you, and you can just get going. So that's pretty much it. Oh, and then also if you're interested, then join Create PayPal App on Slack, and we can chat there. So, one last thing. I'm going on paternity leave, so I'm going to be gone for starting next week. I'm going to be gone for a month. So if you need my help, I'll still be available, sort of. But yeah,
always available.
Yeah.
Just hit him up on Twitter. He'll be available on Twitter. Yeah. I know he's on there every time.
Yeah.
Hey, your PayPal buddy wants you. Hey, to
yeah.
Say,
Yeah.
So,
Kent and Jamin, incredible work. I love what I saw. Two questions. I think it ties back to what Ethan mentioned. What will it take for all other PayPal apps to be on this? And will people, go crazy about, migrating them to the new one? And what does it mean for a new app? Like, I'll give you an example. For most things we do at PayPal on the website, it's a generic way of read and writes and expressing. I mean, so what portion or what percentage of existing and / new development can just work with base PayPal script versus sure, you gave them an extensibility through their Babel RC. What percentage will just take the base and will work for them, just as an estimate?
Sorry, so you cut out a little bit, but I think that what you were talking about was what percent of people will end up having to customize things. And
Correct.
My hope is that if they're customizing something, there's probably something general in what they're doing that we can apply to PayPal scripts and bring in PayPal. Because if it's beneficial for you, it's probably beneficial for everybody else. But the reason that it's extensible is because we do have many use cases here at PayPal that we need to support. And so we do have some extensibility there, and it works really nicely. But hopefully if you're making some extensions, we can bring in the nice things that you're doing so more people can benefit from that.
Hey, I want to mention one thing. One of my biggest initiatives within P2P to support quality was adding flow types. And a lot of teams, I think, are don't want to mess around with adding static type checking to their apps. And so with PayPal scripts, you just totally get it out of the box. And so my real hope is this is going to be a big influencer for better quality in JavaScript apps at PayPal. I know a lot of teams are using TypeScript, and so maybe there'll be, maybe PayPal scripts will support TypeScript at some point because there's kind of two competing implementations. But ultimately, we need that type checking, and this is a really, really super easy way to bring that across teams. So I'm hoping just for type checking alone, it'll be a big win for a lot of teams across PayPal.
Love it. So guys, one thing I would say is that I do want to invite you guys to Bill Scott's stuff. I'm pretty impressed with what I saw. What I would urge you to is as you started with 5,600 whatever linting config we have, and then same with Babel and same thing web. Along with that, can you also highlight or calculate or see the benefit, whether it's a developer productivity, whether it's product quality, whether it's defect, whatever, for non-engineers, for people who are not coding, to see for them to appreciate. If you can give me some other metrics, the same metrics but measurable, then Bill and other can connect the dots really quickly.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. I think Kent and I can work that out. There's a lot of things. The support requests alone are huge time sink, as well as the quality benefits that we believe we can see, et cetera, can be really, quantifiable for, not just for developer experience. So
beautiful.
Really happy with Kent's work. I'm super excited that we've got him on our team. I know we have a lot of different things we could work on. We really talked a lot to see where do you think Kent's expertise could merge with the needs we have at PayPal. And it's a little different. We have our configuration on P2P. We think it's great, but we thought this is something that Kent could do to have a great impact, especially before I really wanted to hit something before Thanksgiving. I'm really happy that we've been able to deliver this just in time for the break. And hopefully we can convince teams during moratorium to spend a little bit of that time they have to try out some of these cool tools.
Love it, guys. Last question, and I'm sure people will have more questions, and I think there's no rush. As long as I'm not running late to Bill's meeting, I'm fine. So now with React script, and I think you already mentioned there's an inspiration from there. If we were to, just for the sake of it, open source it, what would neutral community go for? Are they getting more from React? Are they missing out something with PayPal? Or you know what? Most of the companies like Walmart Lab and others are more on PayPal script side of it. Just some understanding, I have no idea, so I'm just taking your feed here.
Sure, yeah. So I started PayPal scripts right before I went on my first month of paternity. And then while I was on paternity, I started working on KCD scripts. And that's this open source version that is like, the thing with these scripts projects is that for them to be really valuable, they do have to be opinionated on some things. And so KCD scripts is opinionated on the way that I do my open source projects, whereas PayPal scripts is pretty opinionated on how it does PayPal apps and things. Like there's some logic inside of PayPal scripts that's specific for our development and our workflows and our servers and deploys and stuff like that. So there are some pretty PayPal specific things in there. But when I'm working on both of these tools, I definitely see some underlying commonalities between them. And so I could see some ways that we could abstract some of this stuff to make it easier and to maybe build script libraries or tools like this, or even specific pieces that we could pull away and open source. So there's definitely an opportunity for open source here.
There's also the, in terms of just branding PayPal engineering, about talking about what we're doing and how we're innovating in this area. Obviously, we're learning from Facebook, but I don't know that a ton of companies are doing these things on their own. And maybe we can say, hey, this isn't so bad, and we can show how people can innovate and build these tools for themselves. So I think there's a lot we can demonstrate that way, tech talks, things like that, to demonstrate some of the stuff we're doing.
Yeah, and in that same vein, I actually have a newsletter that I send out every week, and I've made PayPal scripts the subject of that newsletter several times, and people are really excited about PayPal scripts, even outside of PayPal.
Can I get a CC, or do I just sign up for that?
Yeah, I'll send you, it's kcd.im/news. I'll send you a link.
Thank you, please. You guys have questions?
Any more questions?
I
have a question.
Yeah.
Especially like the storybook and the flow things. So how much work is there if we want to migrate our existing P2P Node to using PayPal script?
I have it working. I have a demo of P2P Node Web. It took me like a day and a half. It's not production ready, but the dev mode is working right now. The whole dev experience is working. So yeah, it's totally doable. I wanted to see how hard is it to migrate an existing app, and P2P Node Web is one of the more complicated apps at PayPal. I think a smaller app like Pools Node Web or some of these other ones will be a lot simpler. But just expect, a couple days work, you should be able to use all the cool tools and get the free benefits and delete a whole bunch of your custom configuration and delete a whole bunch of scripts that you don't need anymore. So it's good stuff. Not so bad.
You made Daniel happy. You can see he got the what is it? Hang cool sign or what is it?
Yeah, he just likes that I mentioned his app because I.
Ashwin, go ahead. You had a question.
Yeah. Does this support ejecting the configuration if you have to make any changes to it?
No, it doesn't today. That may come eventually, but I want to avoid that. So Create React app, which uses React scripts, does support ejecting, this idea of ejecting where it'll like dump out all the config for you and it should still work. And I really want to avoid that because our goal is to make you more productive, not only in creating your app, but maintaining all the tooling around the dependencies of your app. And if you have to eject, then that means that we failed in doing that. So eventually we'll probably add an eject script, but I really want to see if we can avoid that, especially since like with Create React app, the reason that you inject is because you want to customize something, anything, because with Create React app, you can't customize anything at all. Like nothing's customizable. But PayPal scripts, you can customize anything. So, and in fact, if you don't like the way that PayPal scripts runs your build, then you just don't use the build script from PayPal scripts. You make your own.
Ours is better, basically. We don't need ejecting because customizations are built in.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question.
Yeah.
How much customization power we have with PayPal script? I'm just wondering, are we going to be locked in for a certain framework for a front-end application? Because we have been migrating framework like from Backbone to React, and also from Angular for other. So I'm just wondering if with PayPal script, can we easily migrate to other framework as well?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I've only tried it. So with regard to tooling, migrating should be pretty straightforward. Like PayPal scripts will just do the migration under the hood, and then your build script should still work, even if we switch over to Rollup or something like that. That would be weird, but But as far as like your front end framework or the framework you're using in Node or whatever, all of that should actually be separate from PayPal scripts. Now, PayPal scripts does have some things that are specific to React, like Storybook. It uses React Storybook and stuff like that. But as far as like Flow and Webpack and Rollup and things, all of those things are framework agnostic tools. And so you should be able to use this with Angular or Backbone or whatever.
I'll give a slightly different version of Kent's answer, which is, yeah, you should just use the built-in stuff because it will work better and be easier to develop. The whole point of providing these tools is Infra hasn't been able to support building modern client-side apps. There's just zero support. The sample app that Infra provides literally just has Require.js, which is a 8-year-old technology, which is barely good at serving web apps. I don't recommend anyone using it. And so this gives people the rocket fuel they need to start building their app without any special work. This is why it's built for new teams getting started. They can go way faster than they could be built before. If you're doing something really cool, really cutting edge like Elm or something like that, then you can do your own thing because you're basically an expert and
you know what
but what I mean is for the average team, that just a product team that wants to get working quickly, this is the tool to use, and it will be fairly opinionated. And you know, your mileage will vary if you're going to deviate from those tools, but I'd suggest keeping with it for most teams so that you can move more quickly. So, all right, you're a hero, Kent. Let's give Kent a little round of applause. Good job, man.
Good stuff, guys. All right, Ken, as soon as you're back from paternity leave, enjoy your time. Change diapers is the most important thing. Seriously, I got a letter from my kid, 11-year-old, and I almost cried. And I think it's worth it. Seriously, my birthday yesterday, right? So, anyway, nothing more is more important than that. But once you come back, Jim and Kent, I'll invite you guys to build stuff. I need a small write-up or a blurb so that I can prep them. And also get some more metrics to can actually compare apples to apples so they can see. And if you need to kind of encourage everybody or excite everybody to push this towards this, I think you're already taking care of P2P and stuff like that. So,
Yeah, I do have.
Thank you so much.
I do still have like a week left before I go on paternity leave. So if anybody needs anything, has questions about PayPal scripts, then you can always hit me up. So.
Hey Kent, before you go, what is that you're open sourcing on the content side? The content senior directors are coming to me talking about you, and I don't even know what is that.
So it's not open source. It's an inner source thing, but it's called PP React L10N. It's a localization library that Jamin and I worked on.
Good job.
So yeah, there's a blog post on that. I'll send you that when I send you my newsletter link.
Love it. Thank you guys.
Okay, bye.
Can I ask one last question?
Oh yeah, sure.
Can you put up the final package.json in your GitHub repository so that we can quickly see which version of Webpack this is using, or if you have to see whether it has an SVG loader, or and if you have some questions like that, so that we can quickly see the final version.
Yeah, definitely.
Before that should help us fix bugs.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, so the PayPal scripts repo is on my GitHub, kentc./PayPal scripts. And if you just do the file finder, like the hotkey for it is T, and then type Webpack, then you should see it right there. You'll be able to see the Webpack config. There's only one file for the Webpack config.
Okay, yeah. Good.
And
Thanks.
feel free to file issues for things like establish your use case and stuff, and we can bring things in. I definitely expect that this is not ready to satisfy all use cases that it will eventually satisfy. So
I'm gonna build my baby app on this Thanksgiving. So super excited, looking forward.
super cool.
Look out for questions, Ken. It's coming.
All right. Hey, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Daniel. Bye, Ken.